There it goes. So today's session, guys, it is on reporting, but what we're going to do is split this session into two. I'll tell you why. Because so for this session, we're going to focus on the tabular report and the summary report. Those are essentially going to be the two reports that you're going to use the most often. And in our second report session, which we'll schedule down the road, will be on the matrix report, the joined report, and then we'll make you guys some dashboards for you guys uniquely. Okay. Because it's a lot of information to take in at once, so that we're going to split it into two sessions.
Okay.
All right.
Details, eh? Boy.
Okay, so here we are on the home page, and you can hear me okay? Can you see my mouse moving around?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so guys, if I butcher some of these words about legal jargon, please correct me because I'm not very fluent in anything legal.
Okay.
All right. So if I want to create a report, I am always going to start at my report tab. So you should see a report tab along your ribbon. I'm just going to click that one.
Okay.
So this brings me to my report module. Now your report module is going to look different from mine simply because I'm an admin and I can see all reports spanning across claims, everything about City of Burlington basically. But on your behalf, you're only going to see reports that are legal, and you're going to see your legal module dashboards and your legal module report. Okay. So on your screen, you're going to see unfiled public reports, my personal custom reports, legal module dashboards, and legal module reports.
Okay.
All right. So the unfiled public reports is where you can save reports and everyone can see them. The same goes for your legal module reports. That's essentially where you want to save all your reports going forward so that your whole team can see them. Unless you want reports that you want no one else to see, you'll put those in your personal custom report.
Okay. You said legal module reports everyone can see as well?
Yeah, everyone on your team. No one else outside of legal can see them.
Right. Okay.
So a quick and easy way, if you have a pile of folders there and you want to just see the legal, you can start typing in legal, and the system's going to narrow down the number of folders that say legal in them. So that's the left side. On the right side is going to be your most recently viewed. So you'll notice there's a drop box that says recently viewed, and that's going to be unique to your user license. So Carmela, if you've looked at a report recently, it's always going to float to the top. And Patty, if you looked at, let's say, report share version 1, yours is going to be at the top. So it comes from the top. The newest will always be at the top.
Okay.
All right. So if I wanted to view a report that's already created, all I need to do is click on the report name. The mouse is going to turn into a hand. I can click the report, and it's going to bring me to this specific report. So this one, for instance, is the one that Heather set up, and this one is the one that tells you whether or not a budget threshold has been exceeded. I believe this gets emailed out every Monday.
Do we have to create these reports, or are they going to be already there?
This one is already there. You don't have to recreate this one.
Okay.
Going forward, if you want a specific report, yeah, you'll have to create it. So back to my report module, and I'm going to go ahead and create a report from scratch. So to do that, on my report module, I'm going to click New new report. From here, it wants to say, or it says create new report, and then it says select report type. Now, all of the report types that you guys are going to want to make, oops, get that out of the way, are underneath your other reports folder. But you don't have to go looking through that at all. You just type in the name of the module you want to report on. So in this case, retainers. So I'm going to say retain, and it's going to narrow down all the things that with retainers in it. But if I finish it off, just say retainers, I can then click the retainer so it turns blue, and then click create. And that is going to kick off your report building wizard. So this is the report building page. Now what you're going to notice is on the left, every field on the report module. You can report on everything in the system. So every piece of data that you key in the system, you can get a report on and take it out of the system. So the quick find box right there works the same as it does on every other quick find box in the system, where if you're looking for something in particular, let's say you're looking for the total budget. If you start typing in budget and spell it wrong, it's not going to tell you anything. But if you spell budget or even start to begin to spell budget, it will narrow down the results for the things you're looking for.
Okay.
To the right of that is going to be where your filters exist, and underneath that is a preview of the data that you're making. So as you build your report, it'll give you a preview of it until you press run report, and then it'll bring in all the records. So something to keep in mind, and that is very, very important, is this show drop-down box. By default, it's always going to say my retainers, or if you did it on invoices, it's going to say my invoices. What you want to do, unless you actually want to report on only the data that you put in the system, you're going to want to change that to all retainers. In this case, all retainers. If it was all invoices, change it.
Can't that be changed to default on?
I wish it could.
Okay.
It's a system-wide default, and it's primarily because the system wants to really cater to you, the user. So it always wants to default to what you have done.
But that doesn't really make sense, because it is a company-wide program. So what if one time I forget to do that and I report wrong? I don't know. I know it's silly, but.
Yep, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of it either. It's just impossible to change, and it's always going to default to my retainer. But you're just going to need to change it to all retainers.
Okay. All right.
Underneath that is your date field filter. So you can filter by any date that exists on the retainer module in this case. So in this case, we're going to keep this as all time. But you can say retainer create a date, for instance. By default, it's going to say the range is all time, but you can make a custom range if you like. You could say this year or this month, February 1st, to the end of February, if you wanted to. Or you can use the canned ranges. So if you press down, or if you pull down the range drop down, you'll see all time is at the top, custom, but then you can get into fiscal years, fiscal quarters, calendar years, calendar quarters, calendar months, calendar weeks, and days. So any way possible that you want to filter a date, you can.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to all time there. So the next thing to notice there is this empty box. So this is where we will enter our filters. So if I want to break down my data, for instance, if I want to what I should have done, what I usually do is keep another tab open for my list of departments, which I didn't do. That's not good. 1 second now. Okay, I'm just going to run this real quick, and then I'm going to open up my departments. And I'm only doing that, guys, because I'm not familiar with what departments we're currently using. But my department list. Let's go back to my department list, and I'm going to open here's 2. So, this one. Clerks. There you go. All right, back to my report. Sorry about that. So the filters. Let's say I want to filter my report based on the clerk department. I only want to see retainers based on clerks. So to do that, what I'm going to do is in my quick find box, type in department. And I'm going to click and drag client department and just drop it into our filters box. So then it says client department equals, I want it to just be clerks. So I'm going to write out clerks and press OK. So now we filter down our data to only show us retainers that are equal to clerks. That's how the filter box works.
Can you filter it to do just one retainer? Like would you do the same if you just wanted one retainer, like all of the retainer info, or does that make?
You can filter it by basically anything. So let's say the account. So if I wanted to filter by legal. So let's say I only want to see, what was the name of that field? Sorry, that was called account. Sorry, I'm switching around a whole lot just so that I can see what fields I'm trying to pull from. So if I want to filter by account, I can type in account. I'm going to pull, click, and drag into our filters. And I want my account, and there's a little lookup class there. I can use that to say I want to see legal and let's say insurance. I want to see only retainers associated to those guys. So I can press insert selected and click OK. And now I'm only looking at retainers according to insurance and legal.
Cool. Okay.
You can edit these. If you just wanted to see legal, you can just go ahead and backspace out that. And now I'm only looking at legal. But for just this scenario, I'll leave that in actually.
Okay.
I'll leave legal. So we're going to filter it down to all retainers all time and only show us legal. Now as I go down. Yep.
Paul, so when we have these reports under retainer, to us, that retainer number means absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Like when I see retainer 00010, like to us that means nothing. I would rather see the name of the file.
Sure. So the retainer description?
Yes, so is that something that Heather would have to change, or?
No. So that number that you're seeing, that becomes a link, or like a hyperlink that you can click on, and then you can go see that record. And I'll show you more what that means just 1 sec. So just further down from our filters is where we can choose our report type. So by default, it's going to be tabular format. So today we're going to focus on tabular format and the summary format. So tabular is basically just a spreadsheet. It's your row and column, easiest way to get data out of the system without any fancy charts or any kind of groupings. Tabular format is realistically just a spreadsheet. So back to your question. So the retainer number essentially means nothing to you guys, but for the system, it allows you to click on the retainer number and bring you directly into that record once the report is generated. But that doesn't mean anything to you guys, so I want to bring in my retainer description. So I'm going to start typing in description.
Okay.
Click, and I'm going to drag, and then you're going to see that it's going to turn green as a checkbox and a blue line, and I can just drop it right there. So
Okay.
everything is drag and droppable on your report. So if you don't want to have your retainer description there, you click the headline name and you can drop it back in there and it's gone. Otherwise, I'm going to bring it back in. So I'm going to bring in some information here. So I'm just going to look back at the record just to make sure. Let's grab our case file number and our department. So I'm going to go back to my report. I'm going to type in file, click, drag. Let's get the department. Click, drag. Let's get our total invoice amount. So I'm going to say invoice. I'm going to click and drag in there. Conversely, what you can do to save yourself a half a second if you want, you can click, drag there. You can just double click these names and it will appear on the report too. So you can double click. You can also rearrange these. So if you wanted to rearrange client department into this spot, you can. You just wait for the blue line and you can click and drag them wherever you like.
And what about the time frame? Can we do like 2019?
Yeah.
So in this case, we could say, so instead of doing a custom report, or sorry, a custom time frame, you could say, go down to your years, calendar years, and you can say previous calendar year.
Oh.
So there are none in 2019 for legal.
No, there are none.
There's none for 2019 legal. So if I remove our filter, oh, this is the created.
Are you getting this information from our? So is that for invoices it's looking for, or retainers created, or?
That's looking for retainers created.
Okay, because we created them all this year.
Right. So if I say this year, so I say current calendar year, you're going to see all of them.
But is that doesn't really reflect those total invoices, because if I want to see just what we charged in 2019,
Yep.
how would I do that?
So I'll show you that one with the next report that I'll make.
Okay.
So I'm just showing you the tabular format, just the way, essentially how quick and easily you can get a spreadsheet out of the system.
Okay.
So now that I have figured out the columns of data that I want to see on my spreadsheet, I put them all out there. It'll give me a grand total, the number of records. But if, let's say I wanted to summarize this financial field, you can use this drop-down menu, say summarize this field, and you can get the sum, the average, the max, and the min. But in this case, I'm just going to look for the sum. Press OK. And now what you'll notice is at the bottom of the report, it's going to give me a grand total of all the invoices for this particular report. So let's just say I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and press Run Report. And this is the number of, so this is the report generated, and it's all of the retainers for 2020 and their total invoices. Quick and easy way to just pull out the number of invoices for all our retainers for this year.
And that includes all retainers, right?
Yep, this is every retainer. There's no filters on this whatsoever other than the year that it was created. So now that we're at this screen, I can do a few things. I can sort this by clicking on the column headers. So let's say I want to sort by the case file number. I can just click on that and it'll sort it for us, ascending or descending. At the very bottom, it gives us our grand totals. It'll give you the grand total of record. And what I was saying earlier, by keeping the retainer number, even though it's pointless to see on a report, what it allows you to do is say, okay, this retainer is 61686. I want to see the details. So I can go ahead and click on the retainer number, and it's going to open up that exact retainer. Then I can go back to my report.
Okay.
And the same goes for the department. So where we link that in, and you notice that it's a hyperlink, I can then click on Capital Works, for instance, and then I can see all the retainers associated to Capital Works. So if I wanted to as well go back and customize this, I can click the Customize button, and it brings me back to my wizard. And let's say I forgot to add, other things can we put in there? The total budget percent used. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag it all the way over there. And I'm going to say run report again. And I just added that field to it.
How about adding the account?
Sure. So I'll go back to customize. And I'll say account. And let's put that one, not at the end. Let's put it next to the description, right after the description. There you go. And let's click.
That's good.
Oops. And we're going to hit run report. So that's probably a good one to sort by. So if I wanted to sort by the account, I can just click on the account name and we'll see contingency first, legal, and insurance wedged in the middle there.
Okay.
So this is just a quick, easy version to get information out of the system. We're not doing any grouping, we're not doing any graphing whatsoever. We're just taking data out of the system. So if I say export details, and I go ahead and say, what type of file format do I want to use? Excel format, comment eliminated. I'm going to say Excel, click export. It's going to download to my machine. I can click it to open. It's going to give me a tip of the day for no reason. That's nice. And there's my spreadsheet. So that's the data that I just pulled out of the system. And if I need to manipulate it in some way, I can. But that's an easy way to get data out of the system.
Right. Okay, that's good.
So from there, so now that I have the report generated, if I went ahead and I closed down this report right now, it'd be gone forever. I haven't saved it. So I'm going to need to save it. So I'm going to say save as. And I need to give it a name. So I'm going to say
Where did you do the save as from?
it is right there in the middle.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep. So customize brings you back to the wizard, so you can customize your report. Save as is where you save it. Export is where you can export it. Printable view makes more sense when we get to graph. So if you have a graph and you want to be able to print out the graph and all the nice groupings and stuff, that's the one you would use. So I'm going to go ahead and save as. So we're going to say this is 2020 retainers. Total invoices. Okay, Click away, and it's going to give its own report unique name. You don't have to worry about that. But what you do need to worry about is what folder do you want to place this report in? By default, it wants to place it in your personal custom reports that no one else can see. In this case, I want to go ahead and add this to my legal module report. And I'm going to say save and return to report. I can click save. It'll just bring me back to the report module, or I can say save and return to report, and it will return back to the report. Now that I've saved it, more options have appeared. Now that I've saved it, I can save different versions of this. I can delete it. I can subscribe to it, which I'll show you in a little bit more what that essentially means. But now that I have it saved, what I can then do is use this report as a template and just make minor changes and save versions of it. So once you get a good report made, you can just essentially clone the same report and tweak it over and over and over again. You don't have to start from scratch each time. So let's say I really like this report, but realistically, all I want to see are the legal retainers. So what I'm going to do,
Right.
I'm going to go back to customize. Then I'm going to say account. I'm going to drag my account into my filters. And I want my account to equal, hit my lookup window. I want it to equal legal. Press OK. Now I've filtered everything down to just legal. And I'm going to hit run report. And this is my new report. I didn't do anything else other than customize one filter to say, bring in the legal account. And now I can save this. I can save, let's say save as. This is 2020 retainers, total invoices. I'm gonna copy and paste it there for legal. I'm gonna save it in my legal reports module, save and return to report. So just like that, I created a brand new report based on an old one and just changed one thing.
Can you add, can I try one? Or can only you do it?
I can only do it right now, but once we're off, you're very welcome to take the reports I make and you can edit them, delete them, clone them, copy them, whatever you like.
Can you do another row in there
Sure.
for hours?
Yeah. Well, that actually depends. Are hours being shown?
In the invoices.
They're only in the invoice.
They are.
They're in the invoices. Okay. So I'll tell you what, we'll make an invoice report next, and we'll make that, it'll be a little bit more clear. Okay, guys, so that's the row and column report. Again, you can summarize any currency values. You just bring in columns and rows, nothing too fancy, but you can export this once you're done.
And so once you do that report once, can you use that criteria to just say that's the report I want with a new date? Or do you know what I'm saying? Okay.
So do you see this time frame up here?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say this was last year. You can say previous calendar year. It's not going to show us anything, unfortunately. Or let's change it to, is there months? 1 second. Month. So let's say last month. So if you say last month, click run report. Ugh, there's nothing there. Let's say last. Let's say the current and previous month. How about that? There you go. So you can change the range as much as you like. So the range there, and you can make a custom range if you like, but yes.
Okay. So what did you say you were going to do about the total hours, Paul?
He's going to run another report.
So I'm going to create another report based on invoices.
Okay.
Okay, so guys, if you're looking for this report as an example, or if you want to clone it, or if you want to delete it, it's up to you. I'll go back to my reports module. Now, if I look inside of my legal module, I can see that there's 3 reports right now. These are the 2 we just made. All right, so let's start another report, and this report will make a summary report. So the one we just did was a row and column, or a tabular, it's called in the system. But I'm going to go ahead now and create a summary report. So to do that, every time we're going to create a report, what we're going to do is hit new report. Then we need to know what we want to report on. So in this case, invoices. I'm going to start typing in invoice. And I want to report on retainers with invoices. So I clicked on it, it turned blue. Once it turns blue, I can click create, and that's going to spin up our creation wizard. So just out of habit, every time I open this, I always change my show drop-down box to all retainers. It's a good habit to do, because if not, it's always going to say mine, and you may not have all the data that you're looking for. So now we have retainers and we have invoices. So let's say we only want to see the invoices related to 2019. So for that, I'm going to use my date field, and I'm going to use my drop down, and you'll notice that there's two separate distinctions, one between retainer and one for invoice. What we're looking for in this case is our invoice date. So I'm going to click invoice date, and I'm going to use my range. I'm going to say previous calendar year. And then we're left with just previous calendar year invoices. So the same exact things apply. These are all the fields, and you'll notice that retainers first, so it'll show us all the retainer fields. So if I scroll down, these are all the fields associated to retainer, and then underneath are all the fields associated to invoices. So just like you were saying, if I want to bring in my hours work, I just click, drag in my hours work. I can bring in my invoice number. Oh, we already did that, sorry. Invoice amount.
The retainer description again.
Yeah. Do we want to see our invoice description?
Yep.
Oh, we want to see our retainer description. Where's our retainer description? Retainer description, and I drop that right there. So what you're going to notice is right now we're getting duplication. So there is two of these. So these are two separate invoices for the same retainer. So we're going to group those together, and we're going to do that by changing our tabular format that we just did into a summary format. So once I do that, you're going to notice this blue line. So this blue line is how we group data together. So if I take my retainer number or my retainer description or anything I want to group it by, essentially, I'm going to click and drag my retainer description into the blue line. And now what we're going to see is every invoice associated to that retainer. And it's going to group them all.
That's good.
And further to that, so you'll see on each line of grouping, it's going to say how many records are associated to that grouping. And if I go over to my invoice amount and I say summarize this field, I can say sum. And it's going to give me the sum of the invoices related to that retainer. Further to that, I can do the hours worked too. So if I want to say summarize the number of hours we can do that too. So for Lakeshore Road, we've worked 29 hours and we've invoiced $13,000. So just as a note, guys, when you are making a summary format report, the preview is only ever going to show you 20 records. So you might know there could be thousands there, but as you're building the report, it's only going to show you 20 as a preview until you run the report fully. So if I click that run report button, it'll show you everything. Okay, so I'm just going to run this now just to see what it looks like. You can always go back using the customize button. So I'm going to say run report. And now we're able to see the groupings. So each retainer, this is the description, this is the hours worked, the invoice amount, and you're able to see that for each and every grouping that you make. And at the very bottom, you can see the grand total. So for 2019 invoices, you've had 456 hours, almost 57, and $380,000. $300,800. There you go.
What amount is it using there for the invoice? Can you go up to the top?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good instance so I can show this. So if I'm at the bottom, you see this little arrow there? If I click that, it'll bring down the column name.
Oh, okay.
That's using invoice amount.
It's showing the total invoice, because look at the ombudsman, it's the total.
So we wouldn't want invoice amount, we want
You're
the,
gonna have to talk to Heather about that, I think.
What would you like to see, sorry?
Is there a way to get the, what do we call it again?
Well, it's
The
the
rebated
HST,
invoice
yeah,
amount?
if you look on the
Yeah.
Is that in the-
invoice.
There it
Oh,
is
yeah,
right
there
there.
it was.
But every field that are on the layouts, guys, you can bring into
Ah.
these reports.
Okay.
So if I type in rebate, I type in a rebate invoice amount and I drag it over here, I'll put it at the end. And we'll see that. And then I'm going to summarize it. So I'll use the drop down arrow, summarize this field, sum, apply, and then we can see the rebate invoice amount on every one of these.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know
so
how many?
I'll just run that.
Yeah, how many hours we used to spend to do all that?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Um,
Wow, this is great.
So the beauty of it too, guys, is now that if I save this, you can use it forever. You can just change the time period. You don't have to recreate the report in any way. You just change the date range if you like, or copy a version of this report by using the save as, and you can just keep making different versions of it.
Can I change it? Would I be able to adjust it
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
save it?
So let me just save this one now. I'll save this one. This one's going to be, I just really need to give it a name. Invoices for 2019. I'm just going to call it that. You guys can call it whatever you like later. You can change it. And then I'm going to put it in my legal module report, save and return to report. Now let's say that this is this year. So you want the same report, but you only want to pull 2020 invoices. I don't need to make the report over again at all. All I need to do is change this filter to say current calendar year, run report. So this is this year, save as, invoices, 2020.
Wow.
All done.
Cool.
And you could do that till the end of time. You do it every single year. Now, if I go back to my reports and I look in my report folder, I can see there's the invoices 2019, that's for 2020, and you can go on and on and on.
Awesome.
And all I did there was clone the previous year and called it something else. So then you can even get fancier. You could say customize. Customize, and let's bring in our accounts. So I'm going to bring in accounts and put them there. And these are all probably going to be the same. How about departments? Hold on now. Departments. Also going to be the same. 2020. Okay, and I'm going to take my retainer. So let's say I don't want to group by retainer anymore. I can grab my retainer and bring it back up to here. So clicking and dragging up onto that. So let's say I want to break this out by department. So I'm going to click and drag my department, make a grouping. And now I've made it, I've grouped everything by department. I can take out my retainer number. So if I want to remove something, and I only want to see my invoices, I'm going to remove my retainer number, take it out. So now we're left with just invoices. And it's all grouped by department. So let's have a look at that one. So I can see these are different invoices per department. So these are invoices with no departments associated to it. But underneath that, capital works. We have spent $76,000 in invoices for the capital works. City manager's office, that's your total there. That's the total amount of hours you work. So this is all broken out by department.
Wow.
Further to that, you can make subgroupings. So if I go to customize, and let's say I want to know per account, so per department, and then per account. So if I drag my account down to the next blue line, and I'll just run that because it looks a little bit squatty there. But now you can see, so let's do this one, capital works. So for capital works, that's the grand total of hours, invoice amount, and rebated invoice amount. But underneath that, then it's even further categorized by contingency. So this is how many hours you worked for just contingency. That's how much money, invoice amount, and the rebated invoice amount. Underneath that is the legal portion of how much you've worked for capital works, and so on and so forth. That's the contingency, that's the legal. So right on down through the list, and again, at the very, very bottom, you're always going to see grand total.
Amazing.
And if you're in a boardroom and you want to impress people, you can always add a chart to this information. So I'm going to take away the account for this one. I'm just going to put account back up here. I'm just going to click and drag it back up to our bar. I'm going to go back to just our client, or sorry, our department groupings. Now I can click add chart. We have a selection of charts we can add. So in this instance, we have horizontal bar graphs, verticals, broken lines, pie charts, donuts, funnels, and scatter charts. So for this instance, I'm going to use the pie chart. Big fan of the pie chart for some reason. I can't tell you why. But I'm going to use the pie chart. So the first thing you're going to be presented with is chart data. The next tab over is called formatting. But chart data allows you to choose what you want to chart. So in this case, where I made a sum of the invoice amount and I forget the name of the other invoice amount, but I can choose which one I like. So I can say the sum of the hours worked. So let's look at the hours, for instance. So I want to see the amount of hours per each department. So then I'm going to go over to formatting. I can give it a title if I like. I can move the legend position around. So that's the legend right there. I can say show labels, combine small groups and others. I typically don't like that one, so I'll take it away. I can say show values. So wedge percentage, enable hover. Enable hover allows you just to take your mouse and then hover over the report and it'll show you values. But either way, let's just say I'm happy with this. I'm gonna hit OK. It's gonna give me a graph. But it's not gonna be, this is not representative of the data because we're in a preview. It'll only give you a preview until I run the report. So here you have it. These are, if I take my mouse and I roll it around, you can see capital work. We've got 127 hours. City managers, we've got 5. So this is all for last year invoices.
Very good.
And it's super easy to change which type of graph. It's all up to you depending on the graphs you like. You can use a bar graph if you want. And you can play around with these. So instead of the sum of the hours, we could say the invoice amount, or the rebated invoice amount. And let's do that one instead. And say run that report. So you can see individually, capital work is obviously the one that is spending the most money. You can view all of these. And all the data that backs it up is just further down the page.
Good.
So I'm going to save a version of this too. So this is going to be a report, save as, invoices for department. So I've saved it. And so let's say you like this report, but you want to change it slightly. You can always customize and say, instead of the grouping by department, I want to group it by the account. Group by account by just dragging it in. Add a new chart. Say the invoice rebate amount. This one can be this type of graph. You can even plot different data as long as you summarize it. So in this case, the sum of the invoice amount versus the sum of the rebate amount. Click OK. Run the report. You can see the sum of the rebated invoice amount versus the sum of the invoice amount per account.
Cool.
So I'll leave those into your thing. But guys, for the rest of the session, is there a report that you guys would like to see created that would be useful to you?
I have one here, the list of retainees and what files they are working on.
Sure. So so start at the beginning. I'm going to click on my reports tab, click on new reports, and it's going to ask me, what do I want to report on? And in this case, it's retainees. I'm going to start typing in there. So I'm going to say retainees, create. And again, always going to check my show drop-down box, and I'm going to make sure it says all retainees. So there's my list of retainees. And what did we want to bring into this one?
I want to know what
Um,
matters.
Which files they're working on, like the
Retainers.
retainer
Oh, okay. Let
that's
me go back.
associated with them.
Okay. Let me see if that's a report type that we have. Retain. I'm going to click this one here, retain. So that is a report. That report type is actually not made, but I'm going to make it. Hold on 1 second.
We don't need to know this, right?
No, sorry. This is just where this app is brand new. The report types aren't completely made, or they're not. We just didn't know which type of reports that you guys would possibly be looking for. But this is great. Intervenes. Okay, and select category. Say other reports. Good. What's happening here? Anyway. Next, click another report type. Okay, select object. Verbs. Okay, back to report type. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to type in retainees. And there is our new report type. So it's called retainees with retainers. I'm just going to highlight it, clicking it blue, and then click create. And I'm going to make sure my show drop-down box says all retainees. And what we wanted to see was a list of retainees and their list of retainers. So to do that, summary format would really make that easy. So what I'm going to do is take my drop down to say tabular format, and I'm going to change that to a summary format. And I'm going to take my retainee name, and I'm going to make a grouping of them. So there we go. Now I've got my retainee name and all the retainers that are involved in.
The description in there.
And I definitely want the description.
Okay, so I'm going to just type in description, drag and drop it to where it belongs. And then we can see which ones they're doing. We can add any fields we like to it. So if we wanted invoice amount, one of these days I'm going to learn how to spell and type, and I'm going to be unstoppable. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and use the summarize. Usually any kind of financial field or any kind of financial column, I'll always summarize it just so it gives me more options. So I'll say sum, and apply. Or even in this case, you could say summarize and give me the average too. So let's say the average. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit run report.
No, we would never use average.
Okay,
I don't think.
so that's easy to correct. You just use the drop-down menu, go back to summarize this field, unselect average.
Okay. Maybe hours would be added in there.
So we can see, I had to make another report type for that one.
Oh,
But I will, as soon as we get off the phone, I'll add that ability. But this report here shows us the retainee name. So each retainee and their subsequent retainer.
That's great.
And the amount on each. So it's going to give you per retainer the amount of invoice. And then at the very bottom again, it's going to give you the grand total.
That's really good. Wow, I like that.
And further to
So when you,
sorry?
when you export that, how would it look?
Sorry, if I want that?
When you export that, how will it look? Same setup?
Yeah, so I'm going to run report. So that's a really good question. So if I say export details, all I'm going to get there is a row and column spreadsheet. So it'll not show you any of the groupings or any of the summations. But if I hit printable view and I open it with Excel, I have a different version of Excel than you guys, but essentially it's Excel.
Right.
You'll see
Bring in the colors.
Yep, it'll be colored.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I didn't put a graph on it, but you would see the graph right up here.
Wow. I really like that. Save that report. Are we gonna be able to see these?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course. They're yours forever. And you can clone them and edit them, do whatever you like.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I'm going to call this, I'm just going to call it retainees with retainers. I'm going to do this.
Yep.
Copy, save as retainees with retainers, and I'm going to put it in my legal module reports. Now it's there forever.
Nice.
That's really good.
And that being said, any summarized report, summary format report will allow you, once you make a grouping and once you make a summarize, so I've summarized the amount of invoices and I made a grouping with retainer name, it'll allow you to place a chart onto it. For instance, if I wanted to make a chart for a retainee name, the sum total of invoices, super simple to do. Press OK, run report, and then you've got, well, I should have, sorry. Let me go back to customize, and let me edit the chart, and do a little bit of formatting, say show values, enable hover. Then I'm going to run report. There you go. You can see individual retainee and the amount associated to each.
Oh. Totally see who's getting the most money.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good, Paul.
Good to hear. So,
Yeah.
guys, those are the two report types that we're going to finish off with today. So that is the tabular report and the summary report. And to be completely honest, you're probably going to use those two reports 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Next session we'll go over the matrix report, could be useful, and the joined report. The joined report really helps with like comparing years. So if you have, 2019 invoices versus 2020 invoices, you can compare them side by side.
Yep, we would definitely use that one.
Yeah. That session, guys, I'll reach out and schedule it with you.
Okay.
But if for a little bit of homework on your end, if you can come up with a couple of reports that you'd like to see me create or help you create, that'd be great because we can create them here live. And then I find the best way to learn is actually by doing something that makes sense.
Right. Okay.
So that was a lot of talking by me. Did you guys have any questions or anything else you'd like to see today?
I guess it might be for Heather, like, we have a couple of retainers that are going to change from legal, and they're going to be changed to the other one, the CRS, the contingency.
Okay.
So it's the same file,
Yeah.
but the account is going to change.
Right.
So right now, so for instance, this one, what if we had to change it to the contingency?
So all you would need
Would
to
I
do,
start? Okay, sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but all you would need to do there is edit this record. So you can do that in two ways. You can either hit the edit button,
Yeah?
use the drop-down menu, and just change it to a contingency, and then click save. I'm not going to do it for you, but that's what you would do.
Well, when you do that though, will it always have the other information saved that we entered under legal? Like all the other invoices that were entered under the legal account, will they always stay that way?
No, not if you change the retainer, let's say this account into contingency, this
Like,
retainer.
yeah, I understand going forward, it's going to be the new account. But anything in the past that we entered as an invoice under legal, will it stay as legal when we pull up a report?
No, it's gonna stay as contingency.
So I think we have to start a new one with the same record name?
You could do that, yeah.
Okay.
So in that case, a really good option to do would be to just clone it. So you could clone the record, and it would bring over all the information, and you would just change it to contingency, and then click save.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good, yeah. And is there a way, is there a way to close the other one or make it?
There is. Remember, there's a button
Close
that
it?
says close it, I think, when
Okay.
you're editing. When you're initially putting it in there, I thought there was.
Nope, there's no close button, but we can add a drop-down box to say, historical or close or something like that.
I thought there was somewhere that it said that it's completed, I think was the idea. If a retainer was completed, there was a spot
Okay.
somewhere, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's in here somewhere. I don't see it, but it doesn't
Okay.
mean that we can't add it.
Yeah, I think it was maybe under budget.
Okay,
Maybe that was,
let's have a look.
does that ring a bell with you?
No.
Where was the approved
Oh, there you go.
estimate?
There you go.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
budget.
Oh, yes, okay.
yeah.
Okay, so at that point, we can close that one and clone it and then start a new one with the same name.
That's right.
And when you close it, the information would still be in there up until that date that you close it, right? I would assume. It doesn't just disappear.
No, it won't disappear anywhere. It'll always be there, but it will always be closed. You know what I mean? So if you did a report on, let's say, proposed budget, it won't show up in that report because now it's a closed budget.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's almost better to
And
leave it
so-
open if you're.
Well, so what if we did a report and we didn't have anything to do with the budget phase in the report, but I wanted to know everything that we've spent on the corporate card, but 3 of the invoices were legal and 10 of them were contingency. Will it show that in the report?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah?
As long as
Okay.
you don't close it, that's what I.
If I close it, it won't show it?
Well, it depends on the filter that you made to bring in those reports or those records.
So as long as I don't budget phase in the filter,
Yep.
it would show.
Right. Yeah, if your
Okay.
filter doesn't say, only show me the closed budgets, then yeah,
Okay,
just as long as you're
That's
filtered.
great. that's really good,
Yeah.
because we have a few of those coming up.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And guys,
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'll stop the recording there.